The year is 1992. You're in Manila. It's a Tuesday afternoon and you're finishing a bottle of Pepsi because it's 35 degrees and you are not an idiot. You flip the cap. You check the number. The number is 349. You've seen the ads. You know what 349 means. You look around for someone to tell. You find someone. They also have a 349 cap. So does the guy behind them. Today, we're looking at the most expensive mistakes in human history. Not fraud, not malice, not some guy who saw it coming and did it anyway. Genuine, catastrophic, nobody meant for this to happen errors that cost hundreds of millions of dollars, hundreds of lives, and in one case, a spacecraft that nobody will ever find. Let's start light. Let's start with a hyphen. On July 22nd, 1962, NASA launched Mariner 1, their first attempt to fly past Venus. $18.5 million, years of work. The rocket lifted off perfectly. Then, 293 seconds later, it started veering off course toward active North Atlantic shipping lanes, and the range safety officer had roughly 6 seconds to decide whether to blow up a $185 million rocket in today's money. He pressed the button. The cause? A missing hyphen. A handwritten formula in the guidance software had a hyphen above a variable indicating the system should use smoothed velocity data. The transcriber left it out. Without it, the software was feeding in raw, erratic data, and the rocket was performing erratic corrections in response, which is a very bad quality in a rocket. Arthur C. Clarke called it the most expensive hyphen in history. Some historians have disputed the exact cause. NASA's official report says the hyphen. I'm going with NASA on this one. The range safety officer was correct. He pressed the button and he was right. Presumably went home, made dinner, did not sleep well. Now, if you think a missing hyphen is embarrassing, let me tell you about a ship. In 1626, King Gustav II Adolf of Sweden commissioned what was supposed to be the most powerful warship in the world, the Vasa. 2 years to build, 64 bronze cannons. Half of Stockholm turned out to watch it launch on August 10, 1628. It sailed 1,400 meters. Then a gust of wind hit it. It listed. Water poured through the open cannon ports, and it sank in 32 meters of water. 30 people died. The crowd watched the whole thing. The cause was almost insultingly simple. The ship had been built by 2 teams working from opposite ends. One team used Swedish feet, 12 inches. The other used Amsterdam feet, 11 inches. Nobody told them they were using different measurements. The result was a ship structurally heavier on one side than the other. Here's the part I find genuinely difficult to process. Before the launch, someone conducted a stability test. 30 men were instructed to run side to side across the deck. The ship rocked so violently they stopped the test. The report described the results as acceptable. The ship launched the following month. The admiral who approved the launch was arrested. Charges were eventually dropped because nobody could work out whose fault it actually was. Everybody's fault is nobody's fault. The king was not in Stockholm that day. Make of that what you will. At least the Vasa failed immediately. Some mistakes travel 9 months before anyone notices. In 1998, NASA launched the Mars Climate Orbiter, a $327 million spacecraft designed to study Martian weather. On September 23, 1999, it began its orbital insertion at Mars. It entered at the wrong angle. It either burned up or skipped off into space. They're not entirely sure which. The spacecraft was never heard from again. The cause? Lockheed Martin's ground software was outputting thrust data in pound-force seconds. NASA's navigation team was reading it as Newton seconds, 1 imperial, 1 metric, a difference of about 4.5 chimes. For 9 months, every thruster correction was off by a factor of 4.5, and by the time it reached Mars, it was 170 kilometers off course. An engineer named Herb Citron had flagged the discrepancy 3 times during the mission.
He was told the spacecraft was too far into its journey to address. He was right. He was overruled. The orbiter arrived at Mars slightly wrong and then ceased to exist. I almost feel bad for the metric system here. It didn't do anything wrong. Now, most expensive mistakes are at least accidents. Some are accidents that several people watched happening in real time and nobody stopped. October 25th, 1854, the Crimean War. A British commander named Lord Raglan sent an order down to the cavalry: advance rapidly to the front and capture the guns. He could see, from his hilltop, a small Turkish artillery position on a nearby ridge. That's what he meant. Those guns, right there.
The messenger rode the order down into a valley where Lord Lucan was waiting. Lucan couldn't see what Raglan could see. He asked, "Which guns?" The messenger gestured broadly at the end of a mile-long valley completely surrounded by Russian artillery on 3 sides. Lord Cardigan, who was to lead the charge, reportedly said, calmly, "Here goes the last of the Brudenells," using his family name, not his title. Then he rode into the valley. 600 men rode in. 110 were killed, 160 wounded, 375 horses lost. They actually reached the Russian guns briefly before retreating. Raglan blamed Lucan afterward. Lucan blamed Raglan. Cardigan went home, wrote a memoir, and became moderately famous. Life is genuinely unfair sometimes. Let's talk about a machine that couldn't be wrong. Between 1985 and 1987, a radiation therapy machine called the Therac-25 was used to treat cancer patients across the United States and Canada. The physical safety mechanisms of older machines had been removed because the software was considered sufficient. The software had a bug, a race condition, caused when an operator typed commands too quickly, could disable the safety checks and deliver a direct, unshielded electron beam. The doses patients received were approximately 100 times higher than intended. At least 6 patients were overdosed. 3 died. When patients reported burning sensations after treatment, technicians told them it wasn't possible. One patient, Ray Cox, said his arm felt like it was on fire. He was told the machine couldn't have caused that. He died in 1986. The Therac-25 is now a foundational case study in software safety engineering. The lesson? If your safety system is software, you still need the physical backup. The lesson cost 3 people their lives. This one genuinely upset me. I'm going to move on. In December 2005, a trader at Mizuho Securities in Tokyo sat down to sell 1 share of JCOM stock at 610,000 yen. Instead, he entered, sell 610,000 shares at 1 yen each. He noticed immediately. He tried to cancel 3 times. The Tokyo Stock Exchange system had a bug. It wouldn't process the cancellation. He watched it execute. The chaos wiped roughly $225 billion off the Tokyo Stock Exchange in minutes. The trader's name was never made public. I find that detail interesting. Not comforting, just interesting. I think about this entry a lot, not because of the scale, because of the 3 cancellation attempts. He saw it happening. He tried to stop it, twice more, then watched 30 seconds of his professional life destroy more money than most countries will see in a decade. And then there's the one that started this video. In 1992, Pepsi Philippines launched Number Fever. Buy Pepsi, check the cap number, match the number on TV, win up to 1 million pesos. The winning number was supposed to be 349, verified to appear on only a handful of caps. Due to a quality control error Pepsi has never fully explained, 349 had been printed on approximately 800,000 bottle caps. Pepsi announced they wouldn't honor the claims. The response was not a strongly worded letter campaign. Trucks were firebombed, offices attacked, executives received death threats. 5 people died. Pepsi offered 500 pesos, about $18 per cap as compensation. This did not resolve the situation.
Over 22,000 lawsuits were filed. Legal proceedings continued into the 2000s. I probably shouldn't say this on a monetized platform, but I understand the energy. And then, for completeness, the Malapasset Dam. A dam in southern France completed in 1954. On December 2, 1959, the left bank foundation gave way. The entire structure collapsed in seconds. A 40-meter wall of water hit the town of Fréjus. 423 people were killed, including 100 children from a school camp downstream. The cause? The geological survey had been thorough on the right bank. The left bank had a hidden fault line that wasn't identified because the survey there had been less rigorous.
The watchman on duty, a man named Garson, survived because the moment he heard the structure crack, he ran uphill. Nobody had trained him to do that, he just knew. I find that detail, one untrained man's instinct, 423 people who didn't have the same warning, genuinely hard to sit with. The thing about expensive mistakes is that almost none of them are stupid. The orbiter engineers were brilliant, they just had two spreadsheets that didn't talk to each other. The Therac 25 programmers removed the physical safeguards because the software passed every test they ran. The Voss's shipbuilders were the best in the world, working in different units on opposite ends of the same boat. Herb Citron was right. The rocket was already too far from home. If you want to feel slightly better about human error, or significantly worse, depending on your constitution, I've got a video on accidental discoveries right there. And as always, bro, got you.